Hey folks, I hope you are doing great. Today, this is Anjali, the host from Azure Developer Community. We are hosting so many tech events, boot camps, quizzes, so that you can upskill yourself for Microsoft Azure. Again, we are back with another trending topic that is Introduction to Blockchain. Also, Azure Developer Community has collaborated with ACM Student Chapter BIT Mishra Devghar. Without any further delay, I would like to call our speaker for the session, Introduction to Blockchain with Oshin Mahajan. She is the co-founder of Psycha, part of the content and community creator for Web3, an applied finance trainee and a researcher. And she'll be talking about blockchain and Web3. Over to you, ma'am.
All right. Hi, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well and just upskilling yourselves. Currently, I mean, it's the best time to enter and learn about the space that's called Web3, right? And we all kind of know about it. It's been in the news. And what I want you guys to know is, first of all, that we hear so much about Web3 of what it is. It's just not the buzzwords around. It's actually more than the cryptocurrency, the gimmicky things that we hear. It's more about how of a beautiful tech we're bringing into this world, and there's like a new paradigm shift that we're looking into when it essentially comes to the next revolution for web, right? And essentially, when it comes to like what is Web3 and the nuances of it, when we discuss it, there are multiple myriad of things that we can talk about, starting with the technology that it's based on, which is the blockchain, very famously called, right? But then there are like more aspects associated with it, which are the belying the spirit of the community of why it's being built, which is essentially for data ownership and giving more power to creators. And I think it's a movement that indeed has promulgated a lot of buzz around it, and for right reasons. But I want you all to know that it's something that you should invest your time in learning about. It's like the best time. It's still you know internet in the 1990s phase of this beautiful technology. And when people ask me what are you guys building, what are you guys doing, and I always tell them we're creating a more egalitarian world when it comes to technology and how data privacy is managed here. And other than that, there is like a hello, can you hear me? Yeah, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are
Yes,
audible.
Okay. Yeah, essentially, the paradigm shift not only kind of symbolizes and accentuates uh, the buzzwords around, which is cryptocurrency. You'll put your money here and it'll double, but it's more about the tech that belies it. It's more about the spirit of the community or building it, the actual humble builders who are trying to make this tech space more egalitarian. Yeah. So, any questions that you guys have for me? And I'll start in a while. Sure. Good evening, everyone. So, Anjali, should I start?
yeah, sure, ma'am. You can start.
All right. Is everyone here? I mean, people have joined us or not?
Yeah, yeah. We have joined.
All right. Hi, everyone. Just a second. I'll share my screen. All right. Just give me a minute. I'll try logging in with a different ID. Actually, I can't share my screen. I think there's an access issue. So I'll rejoin.
Okay, so there
Sure,
may be
man.
like a share button in the last of your screen. I guess there would be a nav bar. If you can access that,
Yeah, I mean, there's like a certain glitch. So, can I just like forward the document to one of you so that you can share it?
yeah, perfect. So just share it to me. Okay, so I
All
have
right.
shared my mail. Yeah, I have shared my mail to in the private chat, so you can share it to me, or you can share it to
How,
Chavi itself. I guess.
sure. How about if I log in real quickly with a different ID and that way I can share the document? It's pretty extensive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
give me.
that sounds legit to us. Yeah, sure. So hello everyone. I'm sorry for the glitch. So Ocean will be joining in a couple of minutes. So she was not able to share her screen. So let me tell you some more events about. So we are coming up with lots of initiatives like certain boot camps we are organizing in upcoming days, like AZ 104 boot camp that will be something around of 45 days, and yeah, so that will be around something around 45 days, and we also starting AZ 900 bootcamp. That's a basic one. So if someone wants to take a start their journey over cloud, so you can just get connected to us, and we'll be very happy to facilitate you. And okay, yeah, Ocean is here, so let's see if she is able to share her screen.
I think I will be. I think it's being shared. Great. Okay. Hold on. Okay. I think it's shared, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's on the screen. Yeah, the screen is shared.
Yes.
Perfect.
Can you see the document?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, works. So, hi everyone, yet again. And as you can see in the screen that's being displayed to you, it's a document that I've prepared for you all so that you get a gist of what Web3 is essentially. We'll start from the very basic things, as in what the heck is Web3 to, the revolution of Web 1, what Web 2 was essentially, moving on to Web 3. And we learn about how Web 2 apps are essentially different from Web 3, what's the tech behind it, and we'll also learn about what is blockchain, how does it work, and just what are the benefits of this technology, why it's being so talked about in the media, what are nodes, what are smart contracts, various mechanisms that lie behind the technology, Ethereum very famously, and a couple of other buzzwords, just DeFi, wallets, dApps, and we'll end the session with understanding this very beautiful concept called as tokenomics. All right, so let's start. Okay, so I originally put this together as a resource for a few friends so that it's very largely oriented around the most common Web3 and crypto questions and misconceptions, right? And you could say like almost 70% of this content is curated by people that are very smart, certainly like 10x times smarter than me, but I'll do my best to update it from time to time, and feel free to comment any questions as the life progresses. You guys can directly reach me. If you're entirely new to the world of Web3 and crypto, welcome. It's a beautiful journey, and I hope this guide will be a good resource and a repository for you to run down the rabbit hole that Web3 is. And always, guys, remember Dior, as it's written on the screen. Do your own research as well. Okay. So starting with what is Web3? So probably, it's in the context of previous internet paradigms, web 1 and web 2 are like the first two stages of the web internet as we essentially know it, and web 3 is like the third one. It's an upgrade of sorts, but for the better. So web 1 came in the 1980s. We've all studied about it in our computer classes in junior high school and high school, and it was a phase that lasted till early 2000s, the next phase of the internet. And it was mainly about providing very nascent and pre-module everyday consumer with online content, images and information, and everything was new and built around screens and interaction of hardware and software essentially. So as consumers could only read information content online and yet not interact with it, that's like one of the characteristics that kind of grew a lot of backlash when it came to web 1, because it essentially meant that it was incredibly static. There was no bilateral procedural interaction between the consumer, that's you and I, the users, and the machine, right? So moving on to web 2, so this version of the internet as most of us know it and use it today was not only read only, it was read and write. So you could read and essentially customize these applications, interact with them, and build upon them. And under Web 2, the internet became more usable. It was a dynamic space that users could consume, interact with, and create content on the internet themselves, like building an app. Very basic, right? And along the way, internet became this entity that was largely dominated by these behemoths and these corporates, as you know it, like Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and a bunch of handful of companies and conglomerates that run the world and uh, read our data. And there was like eventually a breach of privacy that reached a saturation point, and that's why everyone talks about how our data is being tracked. And web 2 also saw an explosion of smartphones, and most of the internet was built around using mobile apps and web development and the hardware that was built by these companies. So the problem that kind of reached a plateau here, which essentially led to the next phase of the internet as we know it, which is web 3, is that internet as you know it today is still a centralized entity. For instance, Apple can take like 30% cut on all paid app downloads and in-app purchases. Twitter and Facebook can deplatform the borders, right? The elections are affected by it, and the everyday consumer and has less privacy, security, and control over what they publish, and the online information that they put for everyone to view, right? So web 3 is essentially a solution for all of these problems. It's the counter movement, as you can say it, and it's essentially the future of internet that we're moving towards, and which is the decentralized internet. Now what I mean by decentralization, so under web 3 the internet is shared in like an online platform, but it's governed by a collective, and the narrative here is not them, it's we, it's you and I, rather than it's being owned by centralized entities. And web 3 as a world is one where there is like open source protocols at its foundation. It's re-architecturing internet services and products so that they can benefit people rather than conglomerates and big entities. So moving on, read and write. So in web 2 we know it, right? There are applications that are very popular like Instagram, Spotify, Twitter, and Facebook. So the solutions for decentralized net, which by which I mean that applications already exist on the internet. It's just to get the data that are using on chain, which means the ledger, which means on the blockchain. So these are some examples of web 3 solutions for web 2 apps, right? Moving on, so there's historical data. Web 2 is centralized. You can see the visual here. And in Web 3, the data is distributed, which I'll come to in a while. And the solution is covalent. It's like the cloud that they're building. Personal life storage, the solution we have here, Dropbox, which is analogous to something called as Filecoin. And Amazon Web Services, there's Arwave. And for Oracle, there is a Web3 solution for it, which is again an entity that is Oracle essentially, and they're building Web3 apps which are known as dApps. So Web3 analogies from left to right: Showtime, Otis, Mirror, Bitcoin. These are some very popular examples, and decentralized, we've heard about it. So, crypto basics. Let's start from square one. What is blockchain? Blockchain is an immutable digital ledger. Digital ledger means it's like a public transitory record that facilitates the process of recording transactions and tracking assets in a network. It's updated and shared across many computers in the network. So if you go back to school, let me take back to you to school. We read about, when the internet essentially came as an entity, it was a distributed network of nodes, right? But eventually what came to being was that it became more centralized. So now we're moving towards a world where it is just the data is essentially distributed across nodes, which are like various computers in a single network. What this will do is that it'll kind of berate the centralization effect that we've seen in Web 2, and that's essentially what Web 3 stands for. So how does blockchain work? Each transaction, which means the updation of the data that occurs, is recorded as a block of data, and each block is connected to the ones before and after it, forming a chronological chain of data. As in, an asset moves or the ownership of an asset changes if you update the data in the transaction and the public ledger. And the blocks confirm that the exact time and sequence of transactions, and the blocks link kind of securely together to prevent any block from being altered and being inserted between two existing blocks. What I mean by this is that once the data is on chain, it's very difficult to manipulate it, which is a good thing, right? You need validators who are working towards it to confirm and corroborate whether the data that is put on the chain is it's authentic or not, and whether it's immutable or not, right? And each additional black that strengthens that's added, it strengthens the verification process of the previous block, and hence the entire blockchain. So the making the blockchain essentially impermeable, like, prevents attacks as well. And how does it really work? So the networks, the blockchain networks, are driven by systems of aligned incentives. So you would ask, like, who are all these miners, so to say? Who are all these people who are actually verifying the data on blocks? So nothing comes without reinforcement. And and I'm a psychology and a finance student, and what we learn about behavior is nothing comes without incentives and reinforcements. The same procedure kind of works here, wherein you align the miners, the people who verify the data, with incentives. So a well functioning public blockchain requires a community of users, node operators, developers, and miners who all play this mutually synergetic role that is beneficial for the network ecosystem. And a blockchain is maintained by a distributed network of parties, miners or validators, as I quoted it, depending on the kind of chain. There are various chains. These parties produce blocks jointly via consensus, and in simple terms, these parties vote on how to process a set of transactions. So there are various rules on different chains, and these rules are called as protocols. And in other words, how to construct the next piece of block or data, like how to put it on chain. And that's like decided by consensus, by a unanimous decision on people who actually validate the data and work on the blockchain. And the block with majority support is the one that's written, and it's permanently integrated into the chain. All right. And what are the benefits of this technology? So first of all, trust, right? It's like the most important and pivot point here. Blockchain's decentralized nature means that information is stored and synchronized across a number and a myriad of computers, and it's tamper resistant because it's not essentially a centralized entity. And it creates trust in the data because many people are involved who are validating this data in real time, and consensus on the data accuracy is required from all network members, and is validated across various transactions that are immutable because they're recorded permanently. You can't manipulate them easily because it's so distributed, and no one, not even a system administrator, can delete that transaction. So if you want to update the chain, you have to have consensus of all the members who are working on that block. So it's nobody has a central control or accountability over it, right? Nodes are the boots on the ground. They are like the behind tech that underlies all of this, that physical computer hardware that runs their respective platforms, blockchain softwares. And nodes serve several critical functions here. They vote and validate blocks of transactions. They communicate with other nodes to agree on the state of the blockchain, what data will be stored next, and they record the historical data. And it's like a universal source of truth. Why? Because they essentially interact with one another and kind of verify in real time whether the data that has been recorded on the chain is true or not. And they are endpoints of the network that enables user to interact and access and build applications upon the chain. So a particular node would be utilized to build the decentralized applications, for instance on this blockchain called Ethereum, right? Smart contracts. Smart contracts are programs, basically they're chunks of code, like really long codes stored on the blockchain that automatically can execute, and they can predetermine the conditions are met or not. And smart contracts are typically used to automate execution of an agreement so that all participants can be immediately certain of the outcome without any intermediary involvement. So for instance, if I'm minting an NFT, right? For instance, recently I wanted this ticket of the web3 conference, of a web3 conference, and how they transferred the ticket to me was sending it to my wallet address. So I had to essentially mint it. So what that means is they created a smart contract where the transaction was recorded, and a couple of validators on the chain kind of created a unanimous consensus that this ticket belongs to Oshin, and then it was transferred from me. So one node to another, and a smart contract is like a way of interaction, and there was no intermediary involvement or a central entity involved. They were like end to end, like node to node, right? Like I mentioned before. So the Web3 conference people, they kind of transferred the ticket to me. So there wasn't any involvement of a centralized entity whom I had to pay a third party commission fees or not. And that's like one of the use cases of blockchain technology and smart contracts. And let's go a bit deeper. So I had mentioned, right, the consensus mechanism. So there are three kinds of it. There is proof of work, there's proof of stake, and then there is proof of history. The third point I'll take because it's the easiest. It's like if you have a historical record or working in cryptographic technologies and timestamps, and you can sequentially order each transaction that occurs on, let's just say, a chain, maybe Solana, to provide verifiable or orderly content. Then you can build on that. It's kind of saying that it's not technically a consensus mechanism. It's like if you worked on this before with a set of team and validators, then you're good to go. You can work on it. And proof of work. So under proof of work, a distributed network of miners around the world, they kind of raise and solve these interesting mathematical puzzles and cryptographic problems in order to create a new block on the chain. Essentially solving these problems requires a lot of electricity, a lot of energy. So when a block is entered in the blockchain, the transaction, it's officially, they become the part of the record. Miners who successfully create a block, solve the cryptographic puzzle, get the data on chain, are rewarded, are incentivized with freshly minted tokens, right? And all of this transaction fee remains on chain, like within the chain. The second mechanism is proof of stake. So under POS, participants and validators and deposit their certain number of native tokens, such as they stake into the network of validator nodes. So if a node is chosen to validate the next block, like, right, so they'll check that all the transactions within the block are valid. So it's like staking. So if you get the information right, you will be incentivized with tokens. Cool. Moving on. So we have heard about these various blockchains, right? Some of the most popular ones is Ethereum, and Ethereum is a decentralized blockchain-based global supercomputer kind of a technology that was launched in 2015 to serve as a foundation to the ecosystem of interoperable decentralized application dApps powered by token economics, which I'll come to in a while, and automated smart contracts. And the main USPs of this chain is that assets and applications designed on Ethereum are built with self-executing smart contracts that remove the need for a central authority or an intermediary. And you can see here the network is fueled by the native cryptocurrency, very famous Ethereum or ETH, right? Which is used to pay a transaction fees in the network. So like I said, like if a validator were to use proof of work or proof of consensus, sorry, stake as a consensus mechanism, they'll be incentivized with a cryptocurrency like this, which is ETH or the tokens on that chain. So it's open source, very programmable, private and censorship resistant. It's very distributed across the globe, and Ethereum forms essentially the backbone of the decentralized net and movement as you know it today, which is already spawned significant innovation like initial coin offerings, ICOs, and stable coins and decentralized finance or DeFi applications. All right, and we'll come to DeFi. So DeFi refers to a decentralized finance, okay, an effort to transform the financial services industry by making transactions faster, cheaper, more secure. It's like the financial solution, but in a decentralized way, in the form of smart contracts and your more egalitarian movement of finance. And there are different layers. So the blockchain layer is like the base layer. Then we have assets or like tokens or cryptocurrencies over it. Then the third layer is protocols, which are essentially smart contracts that provide the functionality. For instance, a service that allows for decentralized lending of assets, right? So one of the use cases of DeFi, and they are called layer 3 solutions. And the fourth one is the applications that are built over these set of rules or protocols, and it's like the products that we manage and access through these protocols. Gas fees. So gas fees is essentially the transaction fee that people pay to submit a transaction, to make a transaction on the block. For instance, if you want to buy, let's just say, some Ethereum, right, some ETH, right, it'll require for you to pay some gas fees, because essentially what you're asking the tech to do is that you're asking them that I made this transaction and I want its validation on a smart contract. And smart contract, as you know, it requires energy, electricity. So gas fees is what we pay to maintain that the hardware portion of things, to maintain this tech, right? And it goes towards incentivizing miners also validate the data on the chain, and spend it kind of helps built hardware as well and electricity to solve these mathematical processes and ultimately create a block or a smart contract. And it's usually measured in GWEI, and for instance, 1 GWE is equal to 0.0000000.1 ETH, right? So Ethereum wallet. So we also have like various wallets, which are like the first point of contact if you want to enter into Web3. Like personally for me, how I got into Web3 was through crypto trading. Right, the market was pretty good that time, and I feel like wallets are the first kind of interface that links the world of Web2 and Web3. Why? I tell you why. Because you can access, and for instance on Ethereum, right? So Ethereum wallet lets you access and manage an Ethereum account if you want to buy some ETH. There's MetaMask as well, and serving it's like a serving a bankless gateway to financial services with DeFi, the culture of Legos or NFTs, or on-chain identity management of decentralized organizations and beyond. The last thing is dApps. So it's like the layer 4 solution. It comes at the top of all of this tech, and decentralized applications are digital applications, very similar to Web 2. The only difference is the data is on chain, it's distributed across nodes, right? So if someone were to ask me, what's the difference between a service that's provided on Web 2 um, to Web 3, why do we even need Web 3? We need Web 3 because it ensures data privacy. The Web3 solutions for the Web2 apps are essentially distributed across nodes, and that's like the essence, that's the spirit of why we need Web3, right? And instead, it's like a peer-to-peer network of computers, nodes, and instead of a single computer, who's like outside of the purview and control of a single authority, it's distributed across. And most commonly, dApps are used for NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens, decentralized finance, gaming, social exchanges, and etc. All right. I think, yeah. Can you guys see me?
Yes, yes, we
Yes,
are
we can
audible.
see you.
Am I audible?
Your voice is little bit breaking, so could you fix your voice? Yeah, it's a bit breaking.
All right. So any questions? All right. Okay. So consensus, right? So consensus mechanisms are essentially like, to incentivize and reinforce people who want to work as miners or validators on the blockchain. So what happens is that if you want to validate the data that is on chain, right, you need to have people that create these cryptographic puzzles and put the tech in place. But if you'll ask कि बदले में उनको क्या मिल रहा है, right? So consensus mechanisms work like that. You need a set of people who agree on certain protocols, like how the tokenomics of that network would work. And that's what belies essentially the consensus mechanism, where people agree on a set of rules, like I said, like proof of work, as in people that I'll have on my team who will validate the data with me will be required to submit a proof of work, and it could be historical work as well, like proof of history as well. And proof of staking is you do the work, and if the work's done right, we'll give you tokens. We'll incentivize you with some cryptocurrency or money or tokens within that chain. Yeah. Any more questions?
Ma'am, I guess we are having questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I can see that. Do we follow 51% on the long chain rule? I mean, you could say that we do follow it because essentially, 50% of the transactions that are recorded in blockchain, right? They kind of are validated. ऐसा भी नहीं है कि every transaction that's on the ledger it's true. Of course, it's like prone to attacks and along that realm. So I can't really comment on it because 50% of, it's been statistically verified as well. Like 50% of the ledger that's on blockchain, the data, it's completely accurate because we have people in place who are working in teams. It's a very decentralized mechanism where not a centralized authority can manipulate data. So I think, yeah, on most chains it's being followed. Any more questions?
Somebody is asking about Hyperledger Fabric.
um Hyperledger Fabric, I haven't heard about it. Do you mean hyperbaric fabric? Can you confirm it? Civil attacks, like that's an interesting question that I'll take. Okay, we can have like a repository of questions and then I can answer it. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
So, guys, our speaker is having a little bit glitch, so she'll be joining in a couple of seconds. Again, she's having some glitch in sharing her screen, so she's joining in a couple of seconds. So, till then, you can just join our Discord channel. I'm sharing the Discord link over the chat box, so you can just join it over here and take a part in our initiatives. Like today, we are done with our Azure quiz. Okay, she's here. Next, you can take a part of this.
Hello, can you guys see me?
Yeah, we can see you. Yeah, perfect.
Can you guys see me? Just say a
Yes, you
yes or
are
a no, guys. Yeah, I
audible.
just
We
rejoined.
can.
Okay. So, with Sybil attacks, I mean, it's essentially a problem of how anonymity functions within the Web3 space because there are people who would say that building anonymously is better than building in public, and because of that, within the Web3 space, initially what happened was a lot of pseudonymic identities were created, right? And people wouldn't know because it's such a decentralized system, right? There's a problem of accountability as well, where people don't know whom to approach when a system is attacked, and if it's attacked by a team of people who are essentially the validators, that's a problem that we face. And in case of Sybil attacks in the blockchain space, we've had experiences like recently, even EVM got attacked and it was in the news. And I mean, it's a problem that'll remain for a long time because essentially we're looking at a system that's distributed and so much so decentralized that pseudonyms and identities are bound to be made, right? 50% blockchain follows a different sequence. I didn't quite get it. What do you mean by that? Can you elucidate? Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So there is a one question in the chat box. You can go through this. Like,
Yeah, so he asked me that what happens when 50% of the blockchain follows a different sequence? Can you elucidate it? What do you mean by that? Can you rephrase the question? Good question. Proof of stake is better or proof of work? I personally think that proof of work is better because of the fact that staking is a very risky business. I mean, but it's just a personal opinion. People would say otherwise because essentially you're getting people on board, and you're asking them that you work and accurately predict the ledger, that the data, check the authenticity of it, and then you'll be incentivized. But what if they actually are wrong about the data? What if they're actually creating blockages on the system and on the contract? So I think that's a risky business. And personally, for me, I think proof of work is what we should look for essentially as well. At what time happens if 50% of the nodes follow a different chain? Okay, so you mean that 50% of the nodes on the computer, they are divided on a different chain, and the rest of the 50 are working on different. I don't think that's like plausibly happens because so nodes are tend end to end, right? And for them to interact with one another, they should be on the same chain. So I think that answers that. Yeah. Any more questions?
One more question is there. Sybil attacks.
Yeah, I think I answered that one.
Okay. Consensus.
I think we did speak about consensus mechanisms, right?
Okay, then I think you should continue now.
All right. So on a contradictory note, guys, like I would say that you guys are. I mean, already I'm pretty sure like most of the population, populace that's attending this session are already good, great developers, and I think if you want to pivot your career into Web3, it's the best time to build. We're in a bear market, right? There is so much to do, and as I say, like whenever the bear market comes, there's a question: how is the one find? Oh, that's what I'm answering. How can you become a miner? How can you become a blockchain developer? So, the pathway to it it's like pretty lean, I'd say, because essentially what you're learning, I mean, you have to first choose where you want to build. Whether the most common ones are Solana or Ethereum, right? Permissionize and permissionless. blockchain. So I know about permissionless blockchain, whereas there's like trust. So again, it's like proof of work, but then you don't have to tell the person your identity. You can just kind of pivot and rely upon zk rollups, which means you don't have to identify yourself uh, to validate the data in the network. And the tech of it, how it works is, so there is like, you don't need to essentially ask someone whether the data is accurate or not. You just need to give them a cryptographic code that they'll crack, and they'll verify whether the data in that ledger is correct or not. And that's what permissionless essentially means. So I was saying that the path to becoming a miner, a blockchain developer, it's pretty lean and simple. To first choose that whether you want to build on, Solana or Ethereum, right? And there are various functionalities that are associated with it. So I think the first way to go about it is stakeholder to party. That's a very interesting question. Okay, so stakeholder. I mean, look, it's not. How should I say this? It's not for people to mass adopt this technology and to participate it. It's something that right now we are focusing on as well, like how to promulgate the knowledge of these things, and how to go about telling people to participate more. And I think, hold on. Yeah, and I think when, like you said, like the cost still causes hindrance, and it's a huge investment whenever it comes to the gas fees as well. And generally, the market keeps going up. But I think whenever there's like a dip, whenever there's like a bear market, right? You can invest in things, and if Zero. Okay, a lot of questions are coming. I'll take it like one by one. Okay, so I'll tell you. So if you want a stakeholder to participate in the quest, I think the best way to incentivize and sell it would be that it's the future. Even if Web3 wasn't a movement of decentralization, it was a paradigm shift that was gonna anyway, that was gonna come anyway. And if we remove the labels of things, we were moving towards a place, world where data was too centralized, it was being tracked, there were like problems of privacy breaching, right? So people were already finding solutions to how we can enable people to own their own data and participate in something that creates an economy of sorts, where people own their data and profit off of it, and not the conglomerates and the companies, right? So I think the best way for them to pitch them and get them to participate is by telling them that it's still a nascent space, and you can choose whatever you want. You can choose to become a developer in this space, you can choose to invest, become a trader in this space, and own the data that you produce, and not let the other centralized authorities profit off of it. So I think that's a good incentive on how you can sell it to stakeholders. Okay, there was another question as well, right, about zk rollups, right? And what's their use? So zero knowledge proofs. Okay, zero knowledge proofs are essentially a mechanism. They're actually pretty popular. For from a very long time. I think the first cryptographic paper on zk rollups was written back in the 70s. So kuch nahi hai, it's essentially creating cryptographic codes, wherein the so where you can essentially tell the person, if two parties are involved, this party can verify the data that this party owns or has, without revealing to them what the data is. And you guys should like read more about it, how the tech side of things works there. But essentially it is what the heart of cryptography is like. It's like sharing secrets, but you code it, you make them very impermeable. All right. Okay, a lot of questions. Okay, I think we are short of time. So, how I would like to end this session with is, so if you're looking to pivot your journey to Web3, you're looking to becoming a developer in Web3, to build projects on it. I think it's a very lean path. I mean, start with learning about what is blockchain, the logic behind things, because coding you'll easily learn. It's not very difficult to mint a smart contract to build an NFT project. What's important is you understand the logic behind it. You understand what white papers are. You understand how DeFi essentially works, and all these technical terms. They're very important to understand because it's something that's being built from scratch. It's literally being built from scratch. Every day I see a new project with great tokenomics, and it makes me think how we function as a world. What the reality is when it comes to money, how we look at transactions and tech interacting. It can be changed anyway. So you change the underlying principles, the product changes. And for becoming a developer, a builder in this space, I mean, there are various programs. And personally for me, when I joined this space, and not it's not a paid promotion, but I personally rely a lot on, sorry, Scrimba. There are free courses, free resources there, and everything to learn about Web3 is essentially open source. So, go out there, do your own research, understand the tech behind it, read a lot, and then kind of get into programming. And if you want to build your own project, I mean, there's always a space, and I think the bear market is like the best place to build. Yeah, that's about it. So, Anjali, should we wrap up the session?
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us the incredible insights about what it was. Introduction to blockchain. It was nice interacting with you and learning from you. So,
Likewise,
guys,
and
do join.
there's a question. Sorry. So Scrimba is a platform and it offers like open source content for learning about anything and everything Web3. Yeah.
Um, oh, the questions.
All right. So yeah,
Any
Anjali, you
more
were saying.
questions? Or ending it? We are ending it. Okay. So, guys, do join the Azure Developer Community Discord channel. We have a lot of opportunity flooding there. And tomorrow we have a quiz on Discord channel at 4 p.m. This is Anjali from Azure Developer Community signing off. Thank you.